From the center of the galaxy, this is ForceCenter, show about Star Wars, pop culture, and the ultimate adventure, life itself. I've nailed that intro finally. It was a newer intro, and it took me months to finally have it in my heart, but it's here. I'm Ken Napzok.
And I am Joseph Scrimshaw, and thankfully I got my name right. I've messed it up before.
I'm Jennifer Landa. That's all I have to say.
That's all you need to say. A thunderous applause break went up in the audience. We are here to continue our Star Wars news, our breaking news from a long time ago, which was Friday and Saturday at D23. We released an episode that focused on the Skeleton Crew. So if you'd like, you can focus on that yourself by watching or listening to that episode on YouTube. I'll drop a link in there. But we are going to focus on the Mandalorian and Grogu and Andor Season 2. We got some teasers for both and any odds and ends that we want to discuss. Before we get to that news today, we're going to remind you that today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. We always like to recommend a book, and this week we're recommending Rebel Rising by Beth Revis. Go back and check it out if it's been a while. Hear it for the first time. It's a great story of Jyn Erso, Saw Gerrera, and all the cool little things that lead to Rogue One and Catalyst and this entire era that Andor explores. So check out that book and download your free audiobook and help out the show by going to audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Again, that's audibletrial.com/ForceCenter for your free audio book from that A to the A of the Ask. Joseph, what do we have on that side?
We are still building our YouTube numbers, and we are asking you to help by subscribing. If you're just checking us out and are seeing if this is for you, hey, give us a subscription and see if it continues to be for you. Or if you're normally a podcast listener, even if you're not going to watch YouTube all that time, it really helps to grow subscribers. We've been growing steadily while we've been putting our faces here on the internet for almost a year now, I believe. We would love to get to 10,000 subscribers as soon as possible. We're going to get better at our marketing, and we'll have a date that we're trying to do it by, and maybe a thing that will happen if we get it done by that date. But until then, just keep subscribing. We'd love to get to 10,000. And thanks for everybody who has been subscribing and sharing their thoughts, their perspectives on Star Wars in our comments.
Been a lot of fun. Yeah, well said. Ask there. We don't need to do Star Wars Life Adventures because we shared them yesterday. Catch up with our adventures yesterday. We get to dive right into the news. D23, we got our first look at the Mandalorian and Grogu. That was actually pretty exciting. Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni came on out. They sauntered on out, dare I say, and revealed the first footage for the forthcoming movie. I sounded like what's the classic old Western actor? First footage came in there. Sorry. The forthcoming movie, The Mandalorian and Grogu. It was exclusive to the room, but did leak everywhere. I've seen it. We might discuss some of the details. We always say we don't endorse checking out the leaks, and we wish people didn't tape it, but it was just in my face. I went on TikTok for 2 seconds. There it was, right there, the entire footage. So I've seen it. But here's some things that we do know, things that were actually confirmed on StarWars.com, so we consider it official, and we've seen the shots. We now know that Zeb, Star Wars Rebels' own Zeb, and Mandalorian Season 3's own Zeb will be in the movie. We don't know to the extent at this point. 2 Anzellans, perhaps the 2 from Mandalorian Season 3, I gotta believe, will see some screen time, and that the Razor Crest, or at least a Razor Crest model ship, is back. So we're going to dive into that information. Some of it might seem, yeah, that makes sense, but all of it new and exciting to find out. Joseph, thoughts on Zeb and the possible return of one of the most beloved ships in Star Wars, a ship we love?
Yeah, no, I'm very excited about this news. But to be clear, I have not seen any of the leaks. I'm not going to seek out leaks. If I end up procrastinating by scrolling through TikTok, I might see a leak, but not personally going to seek it out. So if I say something, you're like, hey, that's not what Zeb does. It's because I haven't seen leaked Zeb yet. I really am thrilled by Zeb. I think it's a wonderful surprise because the way Zeb was featured in Mandalorian Season 3 had a great, cool, there's Zeb. I wonder if that's all they can afford to have him ever do is stand at the bar and have a brief opinion. But it also seemed like such great hype buildup for Ahsoka that was going to see the return of so many of the live action, or see the first live action version of so many of the beloved characters from Rebels. So I'm really surprised that he's going to get to be in this film. big, bold, and loud like Zeb should be. I'm not going to assume that he's like the third star because I don't want to set myself up for disappointment that this is Mandalorian and Grogu and Zeb. I think pretty soon we're going to have ourselves one of those shirts of all the characters, Mandalorian and Grogu and Zeb. I think that what's exciting for me about Zeb being featured in this early footage is that it speaks to Mandalorian and Grogu working specifically with the New Republic. I understand there's also lots of images of Imperial era equipment and fighting Imperials and all of that. And I did love the way season 3 ended on that note of Din's job right now is to teach Grogu how to be an honorable Mandalorian, and Din's still going to be a bounty hunter, but boy, would it be great to do honorable jobs, which means wink, wink, send me after the bleeping Imperials. So Zeb's presence as a part of the New Republic for me gets me excited that that's the thrust of the story. And then the Razor Crest being back is the first thing I thought of is my HasLab that I bought of the Razor Crest. Moments before it was destroyed on television. That's my honest response. Like, my HasLab. Maybe I'll get it back out again. But I'm really curious to see how it's used in the show because the Razor Crest being larger had a sense of home. So I wonder if there's going to be a sense of, we've had our sort of 1-bedroom apartment bachelor time with the zippy N1 Starfighter, but it's time to settle down and make a home in the much more expansive 2-bedroom Razor Crest.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I love the Razor Crest. I'm staring at my Lego version behind my camera. It's one of my favorite designs. Something new that felt immediately classic, and we might be discussing that kind of theme as well as we discuss this thing. So I love it. I'm right there with you. And I only say, I leave that possibility of, hey, it's a Razor Crest type of ship. It's maybe Razor Crest 2. I'm only saying that because, one, there could be anything going on. It could be Zeb's. It could be this. It could be that. Totally get it. But just the idea that it's back, I kind of in my heart want to accept. And maybe at the time of this recording, maybe further information is released. We checked to make sure there was any late breaking news we want to discuss. No one has said it is the Razor Crest. I have a feeling it is rebuilt for sure. I don't think this is a jump back in time at all, or I don't think it's a flashback. But there's a world of possibilities. But the important thing is, to what you're saying, Joseph, I start with that joy of like, and I love the N1 Starfighter. Love that episode when it was revealed. Bryce Dallas Howard directing the hell out of that ship flying around. Loved it. But I'm excited to have that Volkswagen space van back in Star Wars. Absolutely love it. Excited for Zeb, too. I got to say, I was surprised when he wasn't in Ahsoka. Not because any, Rebels 2.0 jokes you want to make, but just like he had a obviously very small part and appearance in Mando 3. It was cool. I think Steve Blum getting to do the voice, doing kind of a live action toned down version. I loved everything about it. Was excited to see it explored. And hey, we didn't get it in Ahsoka, but we're going to get it here in 2026. I'm excited about that. And like you said, Joseph, the presence of the New Republic it's a key part to the story, the timeline. And I'm excited to see them interact on any level. Zeb and Grogu might be worth the ticket price there, Jen.
I'm so excited, and I did seek out the leaked footage, I will say, just because I was curious, and when Zeb was revealed, the audience just was like, it felt so special. And Ken, that's such a good point. I kind of thought that Zeb was going to have more to do, or at least appear in Ahsoka. Sure. So the fact that he's here, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of familiar characters in this movie, and I'm excited because he's going to bring some humor, some muscle, also the Razor Crest, exciting, very much home, some sort of safety for our heroes. And Joseph, I thought of you too. I was like, Joseph's HasLab. He can bring it out because I always felt so bad.
Now's a key point in your life, Joseph. There's no resale happening now. You got to break that thing out. It's back, baby. 2026. You're going to live in a mansion so you can display it.
I just play that in the cantina. My whole life is now based on that cantina of rebuilding my life so there's room for my cantina and my Razor Crest. I'm dedicated to this now. Watch, it's going to be a new Razor Crest, and it's going to be slightly different, and they're going to do a second HasLab, and I'm like,
no.
I love it. I think it's a good idea to refigure your life for a Star Wars toy. Yeah. I think that's a wonderful place to be. Well, you both kind of touched upon again. I'm not gonna go into beat by beat discussion of anything that was leaked, and it is what it is. But there was stuff out there. Joseph, you mentioned it. We got a snow planet revealed. We always say snow planet. Hoth, Ilum, Megiddo, like all the usual suspects can show up here for the snow planet here, and even some of the other ones we've seen in Mandalorian. But we got a snow planet. We got Imperial snow troopers and AT-ATs or AT-ATs for you whippersnappers in action, including the classic clunk clunk blaster sound of an AT-AT in action. So I wanted to discuss that, not the footage, but the idea. This is not necessarily new to Mando. We had stormtroopers and garrisons left behind, Moff Gideon, all that kind of E-Web blasters, as Moff Gideon told us all. What is the value of returning to theaters? To theaters, May 2026, with new classic characters. This is the Mando, the Grogu, even Zeb, he's 10 years old, the Razor Crest, and very familiar Star Wars elements, including the big sounds of seeing Imperial walkers on a big screen again. What's the value of approaching it in this way, Joseph?
Yeah, I think for me there is that discussion of is it too much familiar kind of thing. But for me, I think the value is both the storytelling and the marketing. I do think they both matter because Lucasfilm, Disney does need to knock it out of the park. And I think from an artistic perspective and a storytelling perspective, my early guess on the plot, and I'm happy to be wrong, is that it really is picking up on that thread of I want an honorable job fighting Imperial remnants, and all of it being about where did we leave these characters emotionally? We left them on Grogu can be a Mandalorian, he can be a foundling, but he has to go out there and have experiences. And I think there could be a storytelling element as well, where in order for Grogu to truly become what he needs to be, for Din to complete his journey as a father and raise this child, that Grogu needs to face his trauma of what happened to him in that dark period that he won't remember. And I'm sure a lot of that is the horror of the machinery of the Empire. So from a storytelling perspective, I think I need an honorable job fighting these Imperial remnants so my son can face the trauma of what the Empire did to him. Makes me feel like there's a storytelling reason. And I could be wrong about all of that, but that's where my head is now. And then on, the marketing side of it, I think it is powerful that there's enough new here, but there's a powerful in the familiar. There's a power in the built-in audience of Mando, in the built-in thrill of stormtroopers, because what is working right now in Hollywood are event movies. You can't miss this in the theater. Is an artist, is an audience. I want more try something new movies, and everyone I talk to at a party wants try something new movies. The sad truth is we don't always get out of our house to try something new movies. And I think for the first one out of the gate, having something that is, there's a storytelling, artistic reason that these things we love are here. As long as that's solid, then it makes a lot of sense to have the power of that imagery, both the old classic of, going back to 1980 with the AT-ATs and the 10 years old classic of Mando, Grogu, Zeb.
No, well said. I'm right there with you on this stuff because I get the discussion of new. And I think new is important. And Acolyte brought a lot of new and other things outside of Star Wars, new original projects. You're right. They hit theaters and people go, yeah, I'm not going to go see it, but yeah. And that's kind of where we are in just the entertainment landscape. And I get that. And going back to 2015 or even 2014, where, there was kind of some pushback on Force Awakens having TIE fighters and X-Wings. We didn't even get the Y-Wings, but stormtroopers in a familiar ground. Yeah, there's definitely maybe a business decision to that. There's definitely maybe some marketing reasons for that. It's Star Wars. It's things you know and love. Can totally get that if there's some pushback based on that. But also it was just kind of fun. And then also I felt like Force Awakens, and it didn't dive deep into the political landscape or the state of the galaxy, but JJ and team going, yeah, what if the Nazis who ran to South America came back is kind of our premise, and they came back in kind of the same and let's repeat the evil but at a larger scale way? That made sense to me in terms of that story. So going to this, I remember Mando season 1, that's why I love Carson Teva, right? Like, who's the guy going, something's going on here? Why are these stormtroopers running around the galaxy untouched? But the fact that the Empire didn't blink and disappear overnight, just like the Republic didn't blink and disappear overnight. It did in name, but didn't necessarily in terms of equipment and mindsets or even just gear. The fact that even if you're not an Imperial remnant, but you're like starting a pirate army and you're like, can we get our hands on any gear? Well, yeah, there's some unused snowtrooper gear around. I'm not saying that's the plot, but that makes sense to me, but also makes sense of what's going on in terms of Mando, Grogu at this time, the last kind of stated purpose of Mando before he goes and takes a well-needed break with his feet up on a chair there. I'm excited to explore it. And, the business talk is great. The themes and all the stuff we love diving into is great. But the fact that in May 2026, I'll be sitting in a theater and hear the rumble of an Imperial Walker again does get me excited. It does feel fun. And this movie, I think, is going to have a big sense of fun, not be lacking poignancy and purpose and themes and all those things we love to dig into. But I think we're going to have a lot of woo moments, and I'm excited for that. Jen, TIE fighters, snowtroopers, walkers, where do you go?
Practically, I was like, well, this makes sense. It's nostalgic for us older fans. It's familiar for the normies and for the people who are more casual viewers, right? Makes it less intimidating for new people to come in because they're like, oh, yeah, I've seen that before. I kind of have a vague recollection of that. And so I was not necessarily jaded on it, but I was like, And then I saw the leaked footage, and that was why I sought it out. Because when I saw that leaked footage, and I saw the snowtroopers, and I saw the AT-ATs, there was something within me, right, where I was like, oh, this is why I love Star Wars. It's the scope of it. It felt cinematic, as we said. And there's just going to be nothing like being able to see it in the theater. And I think that it's like getting to this core of me as a fan, and the people in charge, John and Dave, are the right people to do it because they do it in a way that, yes, it will appeal to masses, but there's heart. There is a reason in the story why they're doing this. They're having fun with it. And so it's not just a quote unquote cash grab, as was the criticism, I think, of like Solo or other projects. So I'm so excited.
Yeah. Mando, The Mandalorian and Grogu being the movie coming back is to me in sports terms, it's a 3-2 change-up that you're not expecting. And I this kind of came out of left field. And then there's, again, that business discussion, which I do love having, but I feel we get bogged down in, or not we, but just general Star Wars fandom gets bogged down in, well, the Mando season 4, they did this and they want to, at the end of the day, we got this potentially fun movie coming out, but it is what, 7 years after, we're going to discuss a little bit more, but 6-7 years after the last film in theaters, which is only like 4 years less than Revenge of the Sith, The Force Awakens. So I think we're almost kind of in the same spot again of reintroducing this to the normies, we say lovingly, that
Yes.
maybe don't have the subscription to Disney Plus. That's a bundle. I can't get Hulu. I don't do that. Or I didn't watch Star Wars on the small screen, and they're just waiting for it to come back. And I think it's all part of that there. So
yeah.
if
I can throw in one other thing about just, I think we're concentrating a little bit on the sort of iconography of Star Wars that is, almost 40, 50 years old with, snowtroopers and things like that. But there is also value to like this new classic iconography of Mando in Grogu, right. And to step totally away from the marketing and just the creativity and the art in the heart of that and celebrating that is just, for me, remembering that Jon Favreau is in reality and more metaphorically a great chef. He took the ingredients of Star Wars and he's like, George, you cook something special. I could never make paella like you do, but I'm going to take all your ingredients and it's going to taste like that great paella, but it's not going to be anything like it at all too. It's going to be my version of your dish. Mix of action adventure. It's Westerns meets samurais. It's badass bounty hunters. It's the philosophy of the Force, all underpinned by, this is a story about family. It's a badass bounty hunter, kicking ass for kindness. It is classic Star Wars, but Jon Favreau has put all of his own spin, all of his own spice on it, and that is what is being celebrated as much as let's use those things from that movie in 1980.
Yeah. I don't want to ever feel like or we're pushing the direction of there they are playing with their action figures again, because I think we've kind of stood up and fought against that idea around here, which has bled into conversations I've had in my real life with friends of like, no, don't say that. That's insulting. That's insulting, because all of our imaginations began with what you played with on the playground, right? Or what stories you retold out there, or what the news stories you told from something you took. It represents a lot to us there. So yeah, I really agree with you on that. But keeping in the discussion of this movie, but going to it's marketing. It's marketing, but it's all on a bigger scale. In related Disney Parks news, Dave Filoni also announced that the Millennium Falcon ride, aka Smuggler's Run, don't forget it has an official name, at Galaxy's Edge, both of them will be updated to include a playable element involving Din Djarin and Grogu. This update will arrive in 2026 and coincide with the release of The Mandalorian and Grogu. And that all makes sense. There's also a Fortnite release for you Fortnite players like myself that is out now. You get IG-11, a Moff Gideon skin, and back bling with Grogu eating his macaroons. So if you haven't played Fortnite in a while, now's the time to sign on up and experience it that way. This movie, like I said, will come out almost 7 years after we all first met Mando and Grogu, and 3 years after the 3rd season. So let's talk about how integrating the characters into the theme parks will help usher in a Mando and Grogu marketing blitz, and how important it is to reintroduce, putting quotes around them, reintroduce them to the general audience ahead of this movie. Jen, you know about those parks? You know about marketing? You know about buying BB-8 oranges? What do you think?
Yeah, and I was just on Smuggler's Run, and I think that it will have tremendous value to have Mando and Grogu be a part of that ride. I was having to explain to my kids who Hondo is, and they're like, okay, space pirate, whatever. But seeing Mando and Grogu and then having them actually be on the ride itself, that is going to be so, so thrilling. And I also think it's going to clarify some things, because there are some people out there who don't really know anything about Grogu and who think that he literally is a baby Yoda. Like, they don't understand that they're different characters. So I think that will be an important introduction. I mean, but Grogu is everywhere, like on every piece of merchandise. Like, it's wild how Grogu has permeated our culture.
Mm-hmm. Right. He's behind you right now.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. See, he's like so part of my life now. I don't even know where he's, like everywhere. He's on my socks, everywhere.
Yeah. I think I have some socks too.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Love that. Joseph, your thoughts on all of this there? And flying with Din and Grogu is going to be fun at the very least.
Yeah, I kind of felt like Lucasfilm before, Mandalorian season 3, after the, huge success of the 1st and 2nd season, we're kind of leading into making the Mandalorian the face of Star Wars. And I think they rightfully have, really tried to include Ahsoka in that. They've done, I wish they got like the Acolyte figures out sooner, but, they've supported all the new releases. But it feels like there's also like, now let's really refocus to right now. Mando and Grogu are the face of Star Wars. They are Luke, Han, Leia. They are, Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme. They are Rey, Finn, and Poe right now. There's this newer line. It's about a year old of action figures that are for kids, that are the 5 points of articulation, simple action figures, less expensive, called the Epic Hero series. And they got Mando and Grogu. I just saw like a nice, cheap for kids to play with N1 Starfighter in this like more kid friendly, easy to pick up line. And they just announced new figures, and Bo-Katan is in it, and Moff Gideon is in it. So it seems like there's a real centering of them. And I think that's great to extend it to Smuggler's Run. I think it's great for the parks, where people have been wondering, are they going to kind of update? I wonder if they'll change Hondo, change what Hondo says. If they'll be like, let's not be uptight about timelines. Because, that's supposed to be happening during the First Order War. And they're like, yeah, Mando and Grogu were there. Don't worry about it. So that stuff is fascinating to me. But definitely 3 years since season 3 is not nothing, Yeah. A 15-year-old is going to be 18. That's, a life change. So I think the reintroduction is important. And I think getting the general public excited again, because I think season 3 did lose a little bit of steam for general public's enthusiasm.
Yeah. No, 3 years is, it's as you get older, that seems like nothing, right? And then you put it in the context of, that's waiting from Empire to Jedi. That's a lifetime. That's an absolute lifetime. And I'm excited. I want to discuss this story in terms of not just the parks of it all, but the marketing. Yeah, that this is going to be around the time where you are going to once again see Mandalorian and Grogu everywhere. And some people can say it cynically, but I think a lot of people will say it with joy that Grogu is one of the all-time great marketing wins in Star Wars and anywhere, where a character just emerges, surprises everyone being there, and just becomes a character that you live with. Even if you aren't a Star Wars fan, you're probably aware of them on some level and have seen them and can go, oh yeah, that's a Star Wars thing. I think that's wonderful, but that doesn't mean you're not going to have to say, hey, now they're in a movie. Now they're breaking out, and I'm excited of all the promotional opportunities. It's the business side of it again, but I think it's fun. And keep talking about new classics. It's Din Djarin and Grogu are absolutely Star Wars for a lot of people. Absolutely. That's why I think I wanted to go a little bit into the title of it. A lot of people are fighting the title, and I know we've discussed it here before, but I become more and more convinced that it's the right title, as weird as it might seem to some folks. But look, we lived through the Attack of the Clones era, where what became, oh yeah, that's what the movie's about. It's definitely the right vibe. I just think it's simple and direct. I just think it's what it needs to be. That we don't need to have some other kind of, a Star Wars story. Or it's the Mandalorian and Grogu. Those two characters met in 2019 that are now the center of your Star Wars universe for a lot of folks. I think it's a good idea. But anyways, title thoughts, Jen?
Yeah, keep it simple. Let us know what this movie is about. Let kids know what this movie is about. It's just smart. Yeah, no, definitely. Don't need to get fancy with it,
I think you can read it and be like, The Mandalorian and Grogu. I read it as The Mandalorian and Grogu. Like, it's a boom, here we go. It's the adventure of a lifetime with these two characters.
I totally agree. I think it's an evolution of the title of the television show, which The Mandalorian was initially just like, ooh, evocative, mysterious. Who is the deadly masked man? And then the show had this trick up his sleeve. It's like, he's a deadly masked man who's now a daddy. And I think having just the simplicity is great for marketing, but also for any confusion that the title causes. It's an antidote to everybody. We didn't know the child's name. The marketing wasn't quite ahead of it to say, everybody call him the child. So we named him as a culture, Baby Yoda. And that's how he exists in many people's imagination. So if you tell your, less involved friend, parent, kid, whatever, hey, this movie's called Mandalorian and Grogu, and they're like, what's a Grogu? We're doing the marketing for Star Wars. Get to know this character, get to know their true name, that they're different from Yoda. And I think, to me, the title implies that you could maybe look at the first couple seasons of this show this is Din's journey to become a parent. But now this is Grogu's journey to become something new as well. And it centers him and his journey.
Yeah. A clan of two fulfilled in the title there. StarWars.com closed their coverage with this writing. The Mandalorian and Grogu will merge beloved characters from Disney Plus with the cinematic scale, there's that word, Jen, of the Skywalker saga, blending classic and innovative filmmaking techniques as well as practical and digital effects for an all-new Star Wars story. So, what do we feel they're trying to say here? I think we all have some thoughts, and what does that do to our expectations, Joseph?
I think that this is amazing that they're getting ahead of it in a press release, almost a little less than 2 years before the show comes out. I think this is we've heard you. This cannot look or feel like a television show. The volume was a massive step forward that made it possible to have Star Wars on television. And perhaps we have for now reached the limit. We hear you. I think that's what the press release is saying. I think it's also, for me, it feels like if they were using kind of just volume technology with maybe a couple locations in Southern California or whatever, that they could have this out in 2025. I think it maybe, when I was a kid, it was like, wait, the Star Wars films are taking a while. Sorry.
Oh my gosh, there's an earthquake.
Earthquake. Yeah. Oh boy.
Massive one.
Oh boy.
Oh, you really felt it. I didn't feel. I mean, still going.
Still going.
Still going. Action
I'm not
figures,
editing this.
Oh,
I want
no.
everyone to
Oh,
feel
no.
what Force Center
Nope.
felt.
Oh my gosh! I just gave my kids their emergency kit backpacks. Okay.
All right, I think we're settled down here.
Still riding out a few little waves.
Some
That's
toys are going.
weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feel.
You might be feeling it now, Jen.
Oh my gosh, that was weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Darth Vader fell over, but Obi-Wan Kenobi did not. The light side wins.
Wow,
my
you
action
really
figure
felt
display over
it.
here.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Wow, that was a bigger one than I have felt in a long time.
Yeah, it's I thought I had dropped something.
Yeah.
We're still going. I'm not, folks. We're live to tape. I always say that. We've said that for years. You get to experience the abject fear that sudden earthquakes.
Yeah. Yeah. It was really fun to see how you both reacted. Well, I just go like real still, like the earthquake is a predator, and if I'm real still, it won't get me. Not the instructions.
Well, behind the scenes, I often am not looking at the screen. I have my notes up. I used to have an iPad, and I just found myself staring over here. So I went to the camera to see if you all were experiencing what I was experiencing. I just got just checking on Grace and the dog in the house right now. We're good. And then my first responder instincts, I'm going to go check the gas mains, but we're good. Probably smaller than we thought. Anyways, we were discussing our expectations, and Joseph, I'll let you finish if we get our train of thought. But just to reset, I really do think they're getting getting ahead of the volume conversation, which is it's a fascinating conversation to have because, as I've said in the past, I have a mixed, feelings relationship with it. I think it's why we have these shows. I think it's gorgeous. I still think there's scenes that I'm like, see, like that practical scene. That is not. It's a volume scene. But when this movie first got announced, I was like, oh, this could be. They're going to turn this around fast if they're shooting on those sets. On those volume sets. But I think you're right. The release date is not just maybe a marketing, but a release date of, no, we're going to film a movie. We're going to do this. And it's not like John hasn't done that before. I mean, I'm talking pre-Disney live action remake. Dude's made films. So small scale, big scale. Iron Man comes to mind. So I think he knows how to do it. I'm excited about that. But anyways, to reset, pick back up, Joseph, any final thoughts or any continued thoughts there?
Yeah, I was just remembering when I was a kid, and it was like the Star Wars movies take 3 years because we're doing all of these special effects. And I wonder if this timeline is about the technology of it, and if there's a possibility that really Jon Favreau is trying to be a bit of a pioneer again. I think he has valued that is a part of the heritage of Star Wars, is push new technology forward. So there is a part of me also like, are we going to get an announcement in a little while about we have invented the volume, 4.0, and we have advanced this technology, or combining digital and practical effects in a new way. But this press release really heartens me that there's we are not just trying to rush out a Mando and Grogu movie. We know this has to feel like it exploded off your television and cannot be contained. Yeah,
I agree with that. I like what we've seen so far, but I respect them saying this. I appreciate them saying this and Filoni has said some stuff, I think around the time the Ahsoka press, maybe after the strikes, of we know what looks good or not. We get it. We watch these things too. But I think I think it's important to celebrate the technology, and I'm having flashbacks, Jen, to 2014 range into 2015 Star Wars Celebration Anaheim. With a lot of, don't worry, look at Baba Joe and BB-8.
Yes.
You remember all that computer stuff you didn't like? We got you covered. Remember the Phantom Menace, the most practical shots yet in Star Wars. Remember that? We're not doing the cartoons. We're doing the marketing.
I thought of that same moment of that Baba Joe, right? Baba Joe? Yeah. Yeah. J.J. Abrams said, don't worry, we're going to be blending the practical with the digital, because that has been a thing, myself included, where it was like, Joe Yowza, no, bad. Digital's bad. But we have seen it come so far. I think the volume has been great in so many aspects. But as we've been talking about, if you want to get people into the movie theater, get in a babysitter, or taking the kids, paying for parking, paying for popcorn, paying for the tickets, right? What's going to get them out? It's got to be something that you cannot see on your small screen on your computer. It has to be worthwhile. And so I think that they're getting ahead of it. They're letting people know it's not going to look like a video game or a cartoon. It's going to appeal to the cinephiles, the older demographics, or people who just really care about those kinds of effects. And also the leaked footage. I just want to say it looked like some of the shots were not, I don't want to say fully rendered, but definitely didn't look like they were in their final form, right?
Yeah.
Which is why they don't release those kinds of things, and they're not meant to be leaked.
But
they know.
They know. Yeah. But I'm excited.
I'll just say this: it had a great skeleton, but it definitely had that feel of Favreau pulled out his phone and was like, "Hey, you want to see something?" Like,
yes.
Hey, it might not even end up in the film. It might not be a final shot, but we got some stuff we're working on here.
Right.
All right. Any final thoughts on The Mandalorian and Grogu before we look towards Andor Season 2? Joseph?
Nope. I think the earthquake conveyed my excitement about Mandalorian and Grogu.
Jen?
No, I want to see some epic locations. I think Andor has raised the bar. I think even Acolyte as well. So I'm expecting it to look cinematic.
Cinematic indeed. Before we take a break, now this episode will be released Tuesday, a day after the earthquake, but up 4.7 in South Pasadena. That is why Joseph and I felt it perhaps a lot stronger than you, Jen. That's a backdoor kind of situation here.
Wow.
4.7. But when you're that close, that's a party. That's a party. Yeah. All right, everybody, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side, we got some Andor Season 2 news and a little bit extra. Stick around here on ForceCenter. We are back. ForceCenter experienced an earthquake. My desk sometimes shakes anyways, causing my camera to shake. I just scared myself in the break. Again, oh no, I'm just leaning on the table. We're taking a look at some D23 news. Yesterday, we dug into the Skeleton Crew, at least the episode we released yesterday. You can check that out. But today, we're going to go into some Andor Season 2 teases. I'll say this up top, not a ton of information in terms of, wow, completely new, some confirmations, and that's part of the fun, but some great looks into what's coming with Andor Season 2. Diego Luna showed up to tease the second season. Mando saying the stakes are greater, the enemy is more organized, and the clock is ticking. It will arrive in 2025. The exact release date is still unknown, and that is consistent across the board. A couple other interviews that came out with Rotten Tomatoes. Nikki Novak sat down with Cassian Andor himself, Diego Luna, and there wasn't February or spring or summer 2025. A quick teaser was shown for the audience. I have not seen it. Didn't seek it out. Didn't fall into my lap. I do remember some of the stuff that played at Star Wars Celebration London, but again, fuzzy, so I don't really know. A quick teaser was shown and confirmed the return of director Orson Krennic and K2SO. They had long been rumored, soft confirmed, and expected, but now it's real. How are we feeling about these Rogue One faves returning, Joseph?
Yeah, I think we had a discussion. I think Jennifer wasn't able to join us for the news show where we talked about Ben Mendelsohn, kind of slip up, and Ben Mendelsohn having to do the thing that actors do these days and just bald-faced lie about, no, I don't know. I'd love to. I haven't heard anything. So I'm happy for Ben Mendelsohn. But I'm really happy for Krennic and K2SO because I think the value they have to help tell the story of this era and to help tell the story of Andor in particular. I think Krennic has great value in continuing to tell the Imperial story. I love that we spent time with those characters and the machinations and the perspective of the Imperials in season 1, even up to getting to have a moments of like almost rooting for horrific authoritarians, like Cyril Karn and Dedra Miro. So I think getting to see that through the light of Krennic, I have a strange hope that I think that Cyril and Dedra are going to team up and be on like a war path to take over the Empire. And I kind of hope it's Krennic who crushes them ultimately. And why they're not remembered. But I think Krennic also, he has stuff to tell us about the Death Star. Maybe he'll stop another agent from finding out the information. But I think he also has a lot to tell us about Andor because Andor himself, Cassian, is on this journey to become more and more selfless. And Krennic is a picture of, I don't really care about the ideology of the Empire. I just want to personally benefit from being the guy at the dinner party who is in charge of the Death Star. And I think that contrast is great. And then same thing with K2SO. He's a fan favorite in Rogue One. He's fun and snarky. He humanizes Andor. They have a true relationship. But I think it would be great to see Andor even more humanized by having a growing relationship with this droid, this sort of freed Imperial. And it'll be great to see K2SO in the context of now having got to know B2 Emo, who is also central in humanizing Andor, and to see if there is any sort of connection between B2 Emo and K2SO. So very excited for the characters in their own right and what they have to say about Andor himself.
In that episode, you're right. We talked about Krennic showed up and Krennic and Partagaz having scenes together, just is chef's kiss. But now you're making me excited for B2 Emo and K2SO in the battle of Cassian's pals, the droid pals. Jen, I want to hear your thoughts. You weren't around for the first Krennic discussion, but here you are now. What do you think?
I don't have much to say other than somehow I think I saw this leaked footage again. I don't even know if I really remember it. It feels like another dream sequence, but I was surprised by how excited I got seeing Krennic on screen, seeing him in his costume, that white outfit. It makes sense that these characters would appear, that these threads would be connected. I surprised myself because it's like I think I knew that that this was going to happen, but just seeing it felt so right, and it also felt very action packed, judging from the teaser that I saw. Which but Andor season 1 did kind of have some slow burning episodes. I think that season 2 is definitely going to be a much faster paced. They got a lot to cover.
Yeah, I'm just over the moon that Ben Mendelsohn gets to come back and do Krennic, and that's part of the joy we discussed in that other news episode. But coming into Andor, the show, before we even saw footage of it, which is so memorable for Joseph and I, having one hell of a grumpy morning in Anaheim, couldn't get into any panels, and suddenly all the phones came up as the trailer hit the public, and it was I think a better experience than seeing it in the theater at the time, or in the panel. I had expectations of we are going to see a lot of these favorites, and we did get to see Saw, but and obviously Mon, but like I had a lot of what if Infant's Nest shows up, and what if this character, and what if that character, and that's always fun to speculate on or fun to want. Doesn't always happen, but so I don't want to say bummed, but when Andor the show showed up and did what it wanted to do, which included those connections, but someone like Ben Mendelsohn as Krennic wasn't there, I felt like, oh man, what an opportunity you had to bring this wonderful actor back into this wonderful role, and get to do it now. It's free baseball. It's overtime. It's a buy one get one two free coupon for me. Like what a blessing to have him in, and I'm excited to see whatever he does. I like the idea, Joseph, of him being there and shutting down Deidre Miro. Almost like as if he gets a victory, because Krennic doesn't get a lot of victories, and we're not necessarily supposed to root for Krennic, but there's something about him where you're like, maybe just one before Tarkin crushes everything.
You're really making me think about. I feel like, we know this is a prequel to Rogue One. We've heard for years now that this show is going to lead right up to the doorstep of Rogue One. It almost seems like this really interesting experiment of like, you can watch Rogue One and then it makes you want to put a New Hope on to continue the story. But there's something about this that's like the movie Rogue One is already season 3 of Andor, and they're really building it to be like there's no way you watch season 2 without immediately playing Rogue One and finishing the story of Andor and K2SO and Krennic, and that is a necessary part of the puzzle to finish this.
Yeah, I agree with that. And as far as K2SO, again, one of those things that we thought was going to happen in season 1, there was oh, yeah, he's going to be there. Oh, wait, no, I meant next season, I think. We'll find out. And I'm excited to see them meet. I know there's that question of we saw them meet in a one-shot comic way back when. I'm expecting that to be a little different. And for the most part, I think that's okay. I want to see this version of it here. I wouldn't want to see it play out exactly the same panel by panel because of what Andor has done. And Tony Gilroy and team have already shown that they'll go, wait, where was Andor born? Okay, great. Well, we're going to change that. We'll don't worry. We'll acknowledge it, but we're going to change it and do our own version of it. So looking forward to their take on it here. That Teaser trailer revealed a return to the Rebel base on Yavin 4, civil unrest across the galaxy, and as Luna himself did say in that interview with Rotten Tomatoes, Season 1 had Ferrex. I'm paraphrasing here, folks. Season 1 had Ferrex, but Season 2 will have a whole bunch of Ferrexes, is what he said. Luthen Rail has the line, "We bring them down or die trying." So this show will move over 4 years in its 12 episodes and take us right up to Rogue One. That's been said several times by a lot of the folks, including Diego Luna this weekend. So what are we looking forward to the most as these rebels try to scob the Empire?
I think Mothma's journey for sure.
Yes.
Looking forward to that being completed. I think that was one of my favorite parts of Rogue One. I think that this idea of Season 1 had Ferrex, but Season 2 will have a bunch of Ferrexes is a great, really human and personal way to kind of tell the story of rebellion. We've had it in sort of from a different perspective in like Rebels, where we stay with one cell who's actively like, we're not just the people. We are going around the galaxy and we're fighting. We're going on missions, but we had it kind of from Ezra's perspective in Lothal of this is one community who's terrorized, and now they're kind of coming together. But to see a show that's maybe trying to tackle, we're going to show you lots of different communities that have been terrorized, and maybe learning that they're not alone. I think that's what's exciting to me. Is like, is Andor going to be, every adventure, every year, every 3 episodes, he's, distributing Nemik's creed so people can hear that they're not alone. I think with the kind of storytelling that Andor has done about the really structural, functional, how does authoritarianism work? What is effective in combating it in terms of practical stuff and in terms of philosophy? Maybe I'll really get into the idea of one of the ways that communities are controlled is cutting off communication. In the idea of it boiling over and leading to that moment of in Rebels where our crew, the Ghost crew, rescues Mon Mothma, and she's ready to say, hey, there's a fire across the galaxy. We've got a rebellion. And to focus on Andor defeating the Empire's ability to suppress communication, that we're all going through this across the galaxy. If you're being terrorized by the Empire, you're not alone. How do we connect? Would be a really interesting through line for me.
Yeah, taking, dare I say, lessons learned from Ferrex by several characters and going out into the galaxy with those lessons. I like the idea of Andor or people in the cast being leaflet folks, passing out leaflets. Here's what Nemik said, audio leaflets, if you will. Holo leaflets. Yeah, I love all that. I love the idea of it all kind of coming together. There's a lot of, hey, this is the starting point of the rebellion kind of moments in Star Wars. All powerful. Mon Mothma's speech in Season 3 of Rebels, one of my favorites. My beloved Admiratus, could he show up again? I hope so. But I love this is Admiratus of the Rebel Alliance. The reason I love the character and I love that moment, it gets me emotional. This is the first fist in the public. This is who we are. We are fighting. We have brought war now, because this is the option we have to go to, and we're putting our flippers down. That moment's inspiring to me. But what you're touching upon, Joseph, it's getting me excited for as Andor does what Andor wants to do. It's very much, it's got its own take, but it's moving the ball forward, and the Death Star's being built, and we know the many reasons why and how that's happening, and we know it's coming. We know the fight, but to have the galaxy, I've always kind of grown up with the rebels striking from a hidden base, that there's a lot of secrecy, and there is, but that it was just this, everything was quiet, and then suddenly, boom. But as we've already seen on Ferrex, and we've already seen on a lot of, even Bad Batch early on, people were fighting. Infant's Nest is an example of that, of the war has just begun. And this is a new chance, a new opportunity, a new life that we're fighting for. And to have that kind of slowly start creeping around the neck of the Emperor, so to speak, I'm excited to explore that there.
Yeah, I think of the scope of this show when basically it's going to be a bunch of Ferrexes. I think, well, that's a lot of extras. That's a lot of locations, right? I think that they've done a great job in Season 1 of conveying the scope and this vast galaxy, and I think that they're going to do it again, and it's going to be really exciting to see how the personal dramas connect to the drama that's happening in the galaxy. Because for me, I'm like, what's going to happen with Mon Mothma and her daughter and her husband? How is this going to cause a strain on Perrin, right, on their relationship? And how is she going to get into it with Luthen? Like, I'm really excited. That's what Andor did so well, is also focusing on the personal drama as well as the overall drama of the galaxy.
Yeah, no, that we know the moment that she says the Empire's gone too far and I'm openly fighting. Like, is she pushing Perrin off the off the shuttle as she's making her escape because he's such a symbol of, don't make noise, fall in line? Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Maybe she's presenting him divorce papers and then getting on the ship and heading on out to make the speech. I don't know. Out there. You mentioned a lot of great characters. And yes, this is an ensemble show without a doubt, but it is titled Andor still. And Luna said this season will be the, quote, final piece of the puzzle regarding the character of Cassian Andor. So let's focus on the title character. What do we want to learn and see from Cassian Andor this season as he walks into, apparently, as we've been described, again, many places, walks into Rogue One, Jen?
It's because I love Diego Luna, and he's such a fun actor. So interesting. I want him to have some fun. The character has been through so much turmoil, so much trauma, right? I would like to see him laugh, to smile. Whether it's maybe him going undercover and having to kind of do something different, or rekindling his relationship with Bix, right? I just would want to see a different shade to this character, because we have seen him and we know he's going to become the rebel hero that we know he is. I don't know, just a smile, just a chuckle,
just some joy.
Just a little bit of joy. And
K2 laughing a little bit. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Have some pizzas and relax. Yeah.
Yes, have a cup of caf and just chat. I don't know.
Yeah, the Bix of it all. That's that. I don't know if that's going to end happy.
Whether she's on her own journey. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Jen, you're rekindling my excitement for the possibility of some more espionage. When Rogue One came out, we were introduced to Rebel spy Cassian Andor, and I thought the first season would be a little bit more of an espionage, the Americans television show kind of vibe, since it was started by one of the writers from that show, which I love. And it had its own mission. But now if it's like every 3 episodes, every arc is Cassian on a mission. I love the idea that there could be more espionage. I love the idea that we could see a tortured Cassian who is maybe not feeling joyful, but needs to play the role of someone joyful. That's a great idea, Jen. I really like that. Would love that for him. In terms of this sort of,
sorry,
I love that for him.
We're gonna make you happy, but you have to pretend you're pretending to be happy.
Maybe he gets a new jacket. Maybe he doesn't get to touch Jabba the Hutt, but maybe he gets a new jacket made out of Hutt skin, and he gets to touch the Hutt jacket. In terms of like the final piece of the puzzle, for me, what's interesting about that is, I want to see him fiercely committed to the cause, because he had a lot of anger, but he felt like in season 1 that he had the lesson of don't get involved, look away, look what happened to my dad, just don't get involved. And the journey of season 1 is you can't ignore this. But I think where we leave him in a place where he is fiercely committed to the cause, I think, but motivated by pain and anger, motivated, by the loss of his mother, the torture of Bix, his own hell on Narkina, the survivor's guilt that I'm sure he's loaded with. I don't think it's not for nothing that there's like, did anybody else make it off Narkina 5? And he's got as his guide, Luthen, Mr. Just lock your soul in a box and be as evil as you need to be to fight the evil. So if we're spending a lot of time with Cassian, where he is tipping into Saw and Luthen's sort of dark vision of rebellion, that it's motivated, by vengeance, not justice, that it's motivated by hate, not hope. What I'm hoping for in the final puzzle piece is maybe one of those last adventures right before Rogue One, maybe he does find some actual joy. Maybe he, has an adventure that makes him go, I need to listen to my gut again. This has all been about anger and vengeance, and this should be about hope, because something happens to him that by the time of Rogue One, he goes, I need to trust Jen. I need to not listen to Draven. I need to know that executing Galen out of fear and maybe vengeance is wrong. What makes what happens to him that makes him be in that place in Rogue One? That seems to me the final emotional puzzle piece from where we left him at the end of season 1 to the hero he is ultimately in Rogue One.
Yeah, well said, both of you. ForceCenter well said all around these last couple of days. You're all getting me really excited for this season 2. I love season 1 without a doubt. Some of the conversations around it have, kind of soaked into some of our views of these shows. Sometimes it just naturally happens, but I love what this does. I love this era. That's why I love Catalyst and the Rogue One novelization, Rebel Rising. I love Rogue One. I'm really excited to explore it more and push Cassian Andor closer to the person we meet at the beginning of Rogue One, killing, and then realizing, is this the way? Pulling the rifle down instead of assassinating Galen, standing before Jen and saying, I need all these things. I've done some bad things, and I needed to do that, and perhaps that's what we needed to do. But there needs to be maybe something else at stake. And I'm not saying that. I know this sometimes ruffles feathers of even our closest friends. Of I love Luthen Rail. We say it all the time. Stellan Skarsgård, amazing performance. I think he's needed and necessary to the fight, to the cause, but also pushes the ball in a direction that can be self-destructive. And Mothma's going to face off against him and Saw Gerrera and others, and her way kind of wins in a way now that it's competition. Mm-hmm. But that I think Cassian does reject a lot of the things that he had been taught or picked up or just had to do. And so, yes, I want some joy, but I think I also want to have him wrestling with, by the end of it, is this fight has to happen. But what are we doing and how are we doing it? And the General Draven of it all, who I think might be back. Those are some of the final pieces I want him to put together. How else should we fight?
I hope so, because I think it is as gritty as both Rogue One and Andor is, and people go to them for that. Rogue One is a very hopeful film. It is so much about, has the rebellion lost its way? And what Draven asks of him is, hey, we're going after this guy. Mon Mothma gives the mission in hope. Maybe this guy will testify. Maybe we can still avoid violence. Maybe we can get the word out. Maybe this human has value. And Draven's just, he's a risk, and he's an Imperial collaborator. Kill him. Mm-hmm. I have no hope that he could help us, and he deserves to die for what he's done. Mm-hmm. I feel like embedded in Rogue One, Draven's mission and Cassian's rejection of it is an end beat of, I choose hope. I choose the possibility of redemption. And even at the very end of his journey, he's not talking about we got him. He's comforting Jin that your father would be proud. That's a message of love and hope, not hate and fear and vengeance. And I really think that the show is going to honor those moments in Rogue One. I really think you're right. Yeah. And I don't mean to poke the bear. I know the actor from the Bears in season 1 of Andor. I don't mean to poke the bear. These are not just even like ForceCenter friends. These are friends of mine. Or I just love kind of going, Luthen was an a-hole. And I like that he is. Because I love Saw Gerrera for who he is, but also what he brings to the story. But I don't, I always say, Saw Gerrera, you mean the guy that pretty much has got everyone else around him killed? It's just their tech, almost a rebellion. There's lessons in these characters, even if they are fighting for what is right. And Luthen is fighting for what is right. And is one of my favorite characters in Star Wars because of the questions he creates. And I love how it all can relate to Cassian. And any final thoughts on Andor Season 2, what was revealed, Jen, and any excitements going forward with it?
No. I got to go back and see if what I saw was actually true leak footage or just some, sometimes the fans compile footage from like Rogue One and Andor Season 1. Yeah, I'm like, And
then they called Andor Season 2 trailer millions of views for something completely fake, fraudulent, and false.
Exactly.
Yeah. Good stuff. Joseph, final thoughts on Andor?
Yeah, I'm very excited for it. I really like the structure and the moving through time. I think that's going to be a really unique and different just sort of structure, and I think that's going to affect the way the story moves, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, as Diego Luna said a few times, we approach each one of these little arcs as movies, and we're making 4 movies, and that's why it's taking some time, and I'm excited for myself. So yeah, love it, love exploring it. Really excited for this side of Star Wars. Before we get out of here, D23 had some other things go on. Frank Oz, John Williams, Harrison Ford inducted into the Disney Ring of Fame or whatever they do over there. Well deserved, of course. We had the Fortnite stuff we talked about. Mandy Jacinto at a grid interview panel everyone's talking about. No confirmation of season 2 of Acolyte yet. That had been possible for that panel. And the Lego Star Wars What If series or whatever it's called. We're excited for it. Mark Hamill back as Luke or some former Luke, Darth Jar Jar, excited as well. But we'll dive into all that when they come on out. Any other thoughts, Jen, on the D23 reveal or lack of other reveals? Did you expect more?
No, this actually was a lot more than I anticipated. I thought we were not going to, I didn't think we were going to see Diego Luna. I just thought it was going to basically be John and Dave. The fact that they shared some footage, that was surprising. The Manny Jacinto pronunciation, I know he pronounces it sometimes Jacinto and Jacinto. So, and also I learned Mandala, that's not the correct pronunciation. It's Amandla.
Mandala, yeah.
Mandala. So that was another thing that I was like, oh, I got to get the pronunciations right. But that panel looked fantastic with moderator Kristen Baver, who was phenomenal as usual. The creature panel looked like a lot of fun. The only thing I will say is it looked really crowded. So as much as I had a little bit of FOMO, I was kind of glad that I didn't have to brave the crowds because it looked really hot and crowded.
Yeah, I don't miss covering D23. It's always been a pleasure to go down to these conventions or stuff, but for some other channels, sometimes we're sent down. And this is a CouchCon one for me. So, Joseph, any final thoughts on all this stuff and more?
Yeah, I think just from afar, I've never attended D23. It was nice to see sort of the buzz. Same thing with San Diego Comic-Con. I'm with Jennifer right now. I'm busy with some other adventures, and I'm glad not to be sweating as pushed through crowds so full of cosplay that other people's costumes end up stuck to you. That's great fun. But from afar, it's been great to just kind of see a sense of excitement. I think, understandably, with some of these bigger franchises, there's been some frustration, some negativity, and it's nice to see kind of some of the hope and the hype come back for the stories. In terms of the level of what was announced, I'm still hopeful for a new animated series being announced soon. But beyond that, or maybe, getting ahead of Acolyte season 2, I think this was great. I was not expecting footage from Mando and Grogu. But I think it's so great that we really focused on what's next. So much stuff about what's next that we needed to break it up into 2 episodes, but really giving room for Skeleton Crew to breathe, getting excited well in advance for Mando and Grogu, and really building that legend of that's the big theatrical, following up with Andor, and having those 3 things mostly be the big focus really seems smart to me.
I agree with all that. Yeah, it's fun to see a little bit of hype. More than I expected. I wasn't expecting Daisy Ridley to show up or James Mangold or any of that stuff, but the things that are out in front of us, things that are coming soon or sooner than later, I think they nailed that, and the excitement is up. So that is it for this week. Our look at Star Wars news, 2 episodes. Check them out. If you missed the one on Skeleton Crew, go back and listen or watch. We're ForceCenter Pod, and you can find us on social media at ForceCenter Pod. Facebook page is ForceCenter Podcast. Instagram, YouTube as well. Subscribe there if you will. Podcasts available a lot of spots. Just search. You'll find us. Merch available at tpublic.com/user/ForceCenter. And you can support us directly at patreon.com/ForceCenter. Follow me at Ken Napzok. Go to kennapzok.com for updated information on shows. San Francisco on August 23rd. But more importantly, really excited for Joseph Scrimshaw's birthday variety show coming up August 16th that you can come out and see in person or watch live on the internet. And Joseph will explain more on how you can watch it even if you miss it live. So, Joseph, tell us what we got going for your birthday, man.
Yeah, so this is a big birthday, and I decided to approach it with hope. So I'm doing this fun comedy variety show called Horror Years Old. Bunch of great people on it, including Ken doing a set and some other comedy business, which will be very, very fun. The show, like Ken said, is on Friday, August 16th, 7:30 p.m. Pacific. If you're in the Los Angeles area, you can buy a ticket to come see it in person at the Lyric Hyperion. But if you are anywhere with internet, you can watch a live stream version. If you buy a live stream ticket, a link will be emailed to you the day of the show, and you'll have up to a week to watch it. So even if that time doesn't work for you, you can still watch the show. And as of this recording, we got about half the number of live stream tickets sold that we need to. So if you've been a long-term ForceCenter fan, here Ken and I talk endlessly about our comedy stuff, this is an opportunity to finally see it. So check out the tickets on my website, josephscrimshaw.com.
Wonderful, wonderful place. It's going to be a lot of fun. And Jennifer, where can they follow you and all your adventures?
You can find some of my Star Wars pronunciation and grammar videos on Instagram and YouTube at Jennifer Landa or TikTok at Jennifer Landa 1138.
There you go. So we're out of here today. Got to go check the house to make sure it survived the earthquake. We'll see y'all next time here on ForceCenter.